Our speaker today is just like us. Her name is Julianne Romanella. She is the mother of 4 children and an independent scholar whose academic research interests include the life and writings of Eric Voegelin, Plato, and Kierkegaard. You'll appreciate that, Bob. She is taught at several colleges and universities near her hometown of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Most recently, teaching at the University of Tulsa, where that university, was restructured in 2019. It was an awakening to our guest speaker. She began doing some independent research on the corporate takeover of higher education and the development of the P20 pipeline to advance the globalist agenda of the 4th Industrial Revolution. Her writings were banned by social media, so she began her own website, which you need to write down and go look at yourself. It's called Hearts Over Hexagons. Julianne began using her website to make the people of this nation, and specifically Oklahoma, aware of the state of education. Her research into the corporate takeover of the University of Tulsa by venture capital investors and philanthropic organizations expanded far beyond her initial purpose of trying to save a 125-year-old private liberal arts university from a gross reimagining. In a very short time, she found herself confronting the 4th Industrial Revolution, the UN Agenda 21, social impact finance, artificial intelligence, blockchain-based digital identity, P20 pipeline to the workforce, inclusive capitalism, transhumanism, and more. She has become an expert in the subject that you are about to hear. She will be speaking to us in this post-truth era in which we live on the information gatekeepers who attempt to censor what she teaches and writes about. Her research and her writings run contrary to the dominant public narrative and the popular opinion of our culture, which is basically, at this point, through no fault of their own, absolutely clueless. Julianne is here today to speak to us on the subject of smart cities. Oklahoma City and Tulsa being hijacked by the leftist agenda have been targeted as 2 cities to become the new smart cities. In Saudi Arabia, on 60 Minutes Sunday night, they set up their television set at the new smart city in Saudi Arabia, which is the origin of that country. They're building it for $1 billion, and they praised it. Today, you will hear from a scholar, a layman, someone who went out on her own to fight the narrative and the agenda, and she deserves our praise and our applause. Listen to Julianne as she speaks to us about smart cities. Welcome.
Just ask me if you need anything. I'll get it for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I have a ton of information to give you today. It's my pleasure to do so. I'm so proud to be an Oklahoman. Is it too, can you hear me? No. No. I have this trouble frequently. How is this? Is this better? Okay. So it is my pleasure to be speaking to you today. I am so proud to be an Oklahoman. Actually, I'm an Arkansan by birth, but this is my home, and I think that, I mean, it's been so for 20 plus years, and I think that we do live in a geographical place that is a real center of spiritual warfare. So it is very encouraging to see so many people who are aware of that dimension of what I think is a battle for the souls of the young, and who are willing now to bring their faith into the public forum because we desperately need it. If our faith is not the substance of our activities and what we pursue, then the AI algorithms will replace it. So it's very important that we bring that in. Today I'm going to talk about smart cities, and much more than smart cities, because if we want to understand what a smart city is and why it's being implemented in Oklahoma, and it is being implemented in Oklahoma City. You guys are actually a cognitive city, which is beyond a smart city. And it's being implemented in Tulsa. It's being implemented in every little city. I just did a talk in Claremore, Oklahoma. We had well over 200 people who showed up to hear about it. Their small towns in Rogers County, Oklahoma, are all becoming smart. So I'm going to talk to you about why that's happening, especially in a red state. And in order to really give you that full picture, I've got to go through some background. And the background is dense. It probably will not be totally lucid at the end of this talk, but I have given a copy of my slides to OCPAC, and they can distribute those, and I'm always happy to answer questions at the end. So what we'll do is really talk about the global reset. Now, probably some of you have heard of Klaus Schwab and his Great Reset, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we'll sort of start there, because the Smart City program is tied to an economic program, and that is the New International Economic Order. You've got handouts on your tables that will help flesh out what that is, and we will talk about that. So we'll start there, and we'll look at how the new economy is intertwined with the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which is a super high-tech program of advanced robotics and quantum computing and the digitalization and automation of all life. So we'll look at those two forces and how those play into the formation of smart cities. And then I'll talk a little bit about how those trends work together to give rise to social instability, unemployment and other things that will need to be measured and managed so that the people who are implementing the reset, I'll call them the resetters, they can continue with their plans without all of us getting so upset that we overthrow their system. So we'll get into that. And then probably the densest subject that we'll get into in looking at the goal of smart cities is impact investing, or social impact finance. And that is a transition to a new economy, which is based on, let's put scare quotes, true value. And this is a corporate model. All the big corporations are doing it. Our government is doing it. Nonprofits are doing it. Many people don't understand that they're doing it because it is very dense, but I'll try to show you that the rollout of smart cities is tied to tracking impact, which is a measurable change, in order to fuel the new kind of economic growth that is envisioned under this reset plan. So it's a lot to cover. We might not get through all of it, but like I said, I'll make these items available afterward. Okay. So just beginning, if you haven't heard about the Great Reset, this is Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum. He wrote a book on the Great Reset. It's tied to stakeholder capitalism, which is a theory about the purpose of a corporation and its role in society. And what the reset is I'm sorry, usually I read my screen, but then I'm not close to the mic, so let me fumble with my pages here. Okay, so the reset is a commitment to jointly and urgently build the foundations of our economic and social system for a more fair, sustainable, and resilient post-COVID world. Those are all buzzwords. You've got a list of the top 10. If you know just those top 10 buzzwords, you will be able to pick out any New World Order reset program because they use the same language over and over again. That's where my academic training really helped me to see how this program worked because I was attuned to looking at symbols. So this commitment is by global leaders and stakeholders to establish new rules, a new social compact, they call it, and they're very serious about that. It will undermine our Constitution, all of our rule of law, and it will give it over to intelligent cognitive systems. I know, it really seems like it's out of a bad movie, but they're doing it. But they're going to establish new rules about, say, the future state of global relations, direction of national economies, and priorities of society. That's your values. Nature of business models, and the management of the global commons. So this really encompasses all of our political, social, economic institutions. So people will say, oh, Julianne, this is a conspiracy. You're talking about nutso stuff. Well, this is a montage of screenshots that I made from different sources that are all using the word reset. So you can see, and I probably had 30 more that I could have put on this slide, but you can see great real estate reset, Biden's immigration reset, resetting your brain, the possibility comes to Oklahoma, reset Louisiana's future. The logo is straight off of Klaus Schwab's book, The Great Reset. So once you know these symbols, buzzwords, you can spot these programs quite easily. But as you see, all of these have the word reset. So no, it's not a conspiracy. It is a marketing technique. So what are they trying to reset? They're trying to reset the economy. In the words of Bill Clinton, it's the economy, stupid, right? He was actually telling the truth there, for once. So what the Great Reset is about is it is shifting to an economy that runs on the measuring and managing of resources. So I have one screenshot from the World Economic Forum. What gets measured gets managed, and that's a very important phrase. You'll see it over and over again. Sustainability reporting can help save the planet. That's sort of geared toward, let's say, liberal audiences or progressive audiences, and talking about saving the environment. But sustainability can it's also sold to conservatives in terms of economic development and needing to preserve the conditions that make business possible into the future. So be aware of that. This is one program, and it has a line that is marketed to conservatives That's economic development. And then there is a line that is marketed to progressives, and that's most of your quality of life, social justice, things like that. So measuring and managing resources leads to a new economy in which we are moving from fixed capital, that is like hard physical assets, as being the foundation of economic exchange and wealth, to an economy that is based on manipulating human capital. Because we are the resource that can be infinitely measured and managed. So when we think about creating a new international economic order, and this is just a screenshot of the resolution, just so you can see it in writing. When we think about what that new economic order is and how sustainability is envisioned under that new economic order, we discover that they want to have a source of infinite growth. Economic growth is supposed to be something that isn't tied to physical resources that will be used up at some point in time, which that's probably a lie, I think. You know, I mean, there are some things that we know will, you know, once we use it, then it's gone, but a lot of the line about needing to protect the planet from terrible peril, I think, is greatly exaggerated, okay?
Yeah.
So, but it's been very effective in scaring people and getting us to think about how we can attach growth to something that isn't ever going to be used up, and that is the ability to manipulate human beings. So the work that OCPAC is doing on education is absolutely critical.
Yes.
Okay. So sustainable development is the Great Reset. It is the new economic order. And I have here just a little bit of history background. The resolution that I just showed you was the 1974 resolution passed by all member states. It's binding. It calls for a new international economic order. In 1992, it was rolled out as Agenda 21. I thought all of this was conspiracy stuff until I saw it and read the documents, and it's all there. And then in 2015, we have the 2030 Agenda, and that's where you get the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Those are going to be targets for impact investments. So when we look at creating positive outcomes in society, somebody has to define what is positive, what is good, what is true value. Well, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals holds that purpose. So the 17 global goals, they are designed to really bring us into this New World Order system. So the NIEO, that's the economic order, is about measuring and managing resources. It focuses on economic growth, environmental protection, and social cohesion. Many of you have heard of ESG investing. This roughly, it's a mirror image, okay? Sometimes you see the G, sometimes you don't, but that is sustainable development. So the measuring and managing is about sustainability. And comprehensive plans, these are like the City of Tulsa's Planet Tulsa Plan, which is an almost 500-page document about land use, transportation, economic development, parks and recreation, culture, all of those things. Each one of your cities has one. Those comprehensive plans are frameworks for implementing the measured and managed economy through smart city technology. So that's how this is all related, because we want to track impact. We want to be able to prove without a shadow of a doubt that some change has occurred, specifically a change toward the realization of those Sustainable Development Goals. So I gave you this as a handout, but this talks about sustainable development. Basically, what the new economic model wants to do is measure and manage all resources and do that in a way that still creates the conditions for economic growth. So we want to have our cake and eat it too. And there's always a reward that's being pursued, and then there's always a risk that's being managed. And you can frame these differently. So sometimes you could frame the management of risk as if it were a reward. But just remember for now that sustainable development, and these on the bottom, managed growth, prosperity for all, common vision, those are all synonyms, buzzwords that mean the same thing. It means sustainable development. But this managing risk and preserving resources into the future is this sustainable development program, and it is going to be accomplished by a smart city. So, just the reset, right? I said, is it a conspiracy? No, it's not. It's really real. They're doing it. This is, again, I use from the slides from the World Economic Forum because they publish all of it. They're not hiding anything. So this is an article from 2018, how the finance industry can save the world. And sure enough, they start off with the peril that we're facing through global warming, and they say we have to have a new kind of capitalism that is going to incentivize different sorts of economic activity. And that's going to save the world, right? And if you just listen to their language, this should trigger anyone. They say, avoiding such a fate would require a global economic initiative that has no documented historical precedent. I mean, they're not even hiding it. They talk about overhauling the world economy, and it says that we need to have the world come together and pull off the greatest collaborative feat in human history. Okay, this is really certain, like Gnostic thinking, actually. But they're trying to do it. That's what the reset is. It occurs through finance, and so, a lot of us want to be very suspicious of our government. We should be. But I would submit to you that it is the financial world and the giant corporations that are really pushing this, and they need the perception to create the perception of legitimacy by co-opting our representative institutions into promoting this policy. So this is really a banking-driven policy. They're going to save us how finance is going to save us. Now, what is the problem that we need to address, and how do we solve it? We need to rethink the global financial value system. So remember, we're moving away from fixed capital, hard physical assets, buildings, manufacturing facilities, pies, cookies, clothing. We're moving away from that into an exchange of values, social credits, China, okay? So we need a new global financial value system. We need to shift financial incentives toward sustainable investments. That is crucial. And what's gone wrong? We have vague metrics. So we haven't gotten into sustainable investing because we can't measure and manage it. And you see, vague metrics, faulty metrics. We need accurate, widely accepted metrics for what? Long-term value creation. So again, how they're going to save us, it is through data capture. Technologies such as artificial intelligence and machine learning can be deployed, that's another key word, it's a military term really, to develop accurate sustainability metrics steering companies. So this is going to limit the freedom of businesses toward a more sustainable future. Okay, so we're going to use finance and financial incentives to create behavioral outcomes on the part of corporations, and then you will see also individuals. So, and then at the end, they're mocking us, I think, and they say, the good news is that the finance industry can solve the very problems that it created. There are many smart, incredibly smart, industrious individuals already putting these reforms in place through our laws, especially at the federal level, which is why we must focus on the state level, I think. So there's the economic aspect that's behind the smart cities, and then there's also the fourth industrial revolution. Now, I hope some of you have heard of it before. Like I said, it's a super high-tech program. It's very scary. Everything you've ever seen in a sci-fi movie is like only a tenth of what the actual technology is capable of. Okay, so I'll try to speed through some of this. But it says, again, you can see the same sorts of language. The transformation of the 4IR, that's Fourth Industrial Revolution for short, will be unlike anything humankind has experienced before. Again, a complete overhaul, right? A complete reset. And it is characterized by a fusion of technologies that is blurring the lines between the physical, digital, and biological spheres. Okay, so that's how, as an academic, I really got into this, because as someone who studies philosophy and as a Christian, knowing what is real and what is not real should be at the very foundation of the way that we live our lives. But this program is explicitly designed to blur that distinction and to confuse children, and I have 4, about what is real and what is not. Okay, so when they put on their virtual headsets, they are going to lose the ability to interact with and tell the difference between the real physical world and what is delivered into their mind, okay? And they talk about brains, not minds, and that's important because it's a very physical understanding. They want to cut off our spiritual sense. Okay, so you can see, again, the 4IR touches every industry in every country. In Oklahoma, we have aerospace, we have biomedical, we have cybersecurity. All of these are in our Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act plans. Probably put together by very good people who had no idea about this program. But these super high-tech industries are all being touched by this new technology and the automation and digitalization of everything. So you can see it says the possibilities of billions of people connected by mobile devices with unprecedented processing power, storage capacity, and access to knowledge is unlimited, and it talks about the different kinds of technologies that are going to be used. So that's your background, NIEO, the reset, and the 4IR. So this is a slide from the UN document. It says 2016, defining a smart city. What is a smart city? It is a smart, sustainable city, because it manages resources for you, is an innovative city that uses ICTs, that's information and communications technologies, and other means to improve quality of life. You'll see that in your city plan, quality of life. Efficiency of urban operation and services, and competitiveness while ensuring that it meets the needs of present and future generations with respect to economic, social, and environmental aspects. That's your ESG right there. And you can see that it sounds pretty nice. Doesn't it sound nice? It's not going to trigger anyone. Yeah, it does. Like, oh, we're going to use high technology. Americans love technology. Yeah. We always have. And you can see there are comprehensive key performance indicators. Those are your impact metrics. And I'll get into that. So smart infrastructure is what makes the smart city run. And what is it? Well, its core characteristic is that its components, all of your smart water systems, your smart meters on your house, your refrigerator that tells your Instacart app when you're out of pickles, all of those things are being folded into a network, a compute network is what they call it, that will talk to itself and measure and manage all things automatically. And it generates the data that becomes the currency for the new economy. So all of this information and communication technology is generating the data that is the new oil. Now, just so you don't think that I am a conspiracy theorist, I still get accused of that, right? Now I wear it like a badge of honor. This is a screenshot from a paper from the telecom giant Ericsson, which is a partner with the WEF, which is a partner with the UN and their Habitat program. That's their Smart Cities program, which puts forth the new urban agenda. You can download the white paper. It's accessible through Google. That's what I use. Ericsson has published a paper on 6G. Many of you have heard of 5G. Well, they're at 6, and really it goes like up to 10 or 11. Connecting a cyber-physical world. Sounds just the same as what we heard about the fourth industrial revolution, right? Blurring the lines. And they say, okay, 6G makes it possible to move in a cyber-physical continuum. The network provides intelligence. You have smart cities, dumb citizens.
Yes.
That's really what it's for. You don't have to do anything. They want us to be dumb. That's why our educational systems have been under attack for so long. So the network provides the intelligence, the limitless connectivity, and full synchronization of the physical and digital worlds. And it says actuators in the real world carry out commands from intelligent agents in the digital world. Now, that is machines and programs or informats telling human beings what to do. That is what that means. And this is a real corporation. They published this white paper in 2022. So they carry out these commands from intelligent agents in the digital world. It becomes possible to trace back and analyze events, observe and act in real time, as well as simulate, predict, and program future actions. So your smart city, and I said Oklahoma City is a cognitive city. That means you're using you're using technology that is even more advanced in its predictive analytics capacity. You can trace back the causes of any event that's registered through the Internet of Things. That's your traffic lights that have the cameras, you know, when you have a digital ID, when your phone scans a QR code. In Tulsa, we have these, you know, you have to scan a QR code for everything. So I don't do it. But all of that information is going to be fed into this very high-tech computer network in order to hone the predictive analytics algorithms that are going to be responsible for optimizing efficiency in the use of resources. So remember, our economy is based on measuring and managing resources. And so the smart city technology, cognitive city technology, is designed to automate that management process and optimize your production and consumption of goods, services, and so on for the greater good. And that means the Sustainable Development Goals. So they talk about this says that you can't see it very well, digitalized and programmable world. Internet of senses, connected intelligent machines, connected sustainable world, and it goes on. And I'll sort of skip through this, but you can see that it talks about interactive maps of cities. And so all of our smart cities are, you know, there is a ton of geospatial data that's being collected all the time. And that goes into, they say, managing traffic congestion, making things more efficient so hospital or ambulances can get to the hospital faster. That's how they sell it to you. But really, this is about managing who can move where and when. So you have a mobility plan. Smart city plans roll out through the Department of Transportation plans. And sometimes they're called mobility plans, sometimes transport plans. And it's all about streamlining, making things more efficient. Actually, it's really about controlling your access to your car. And they're going to take away your car. They're going to tax you out of it. Really, your employer is going to say that because they have to pursue ESG goals in order to get capital investments, they have to prove that their workforce is committed to the sustainable development agenda, so they are going to offer you carrots and benefits for biking to work or walking to work using active transport. And employees who do that will get little benefits, but then after a time, you will be penalized for taking your car to work. Okay, and they're actually doing it. The city of Tulsa has in its comprehensive plan action items that say partner with local employers to create plans to encourage employees to use active transport. So get ready to hop on your bike. So, it's one. Okay, I've got to speed through here. Let me just wrap this up. This is what we're going for. Smart cities are for using information and communications technologies to automate your government, to automate your healthcare, education, all social services, to measure and manage it. That is what they're for, because all of that data being collected by the Internet of Things feeds into the programming algorithms. Let me just, let me take 2 minutes to sort of wrap this up. Our resetters understand that the 4IR is going to displace millions of workers. So when you see the phrase workforce development, that has been, that phrase has been coined and tested in focus groups because the workforce is going to have to be reskilled or retooled to fit into this new data-driven economy. Now that is, it's not something that most people want to do. The jobs of the future look like you're wearing VR goggles and controlling robots who are doing different sorts of things while you're sitting behind a computer screen, okay? The surveillance, the smart city surveillance that's going up, it is going to be there to prevent the newly unemployed from raising a fuss. So they understand that unemployment is a problem. They have a backup plan, workforce development. And then let me just get here, and you will see, look, there's your, this is Tulsa plan, this is Oklahoma City plan. Human capital is an asset. This is where I'll end it with this thought. We're gonna reset the workforce, measuring and managing human capital. So when your corporations are pursuing ESG ratings, they're only going to be able to improve their E and their G scores so much, that is environmental and governance, but they can improve their social scores a lot. That is measuring and managing the workforce through professional development training, looking at your behavior at home, especially if you're a remote worker. Do you keep the lights on when you're working at home, or are you environmentally conscious? All of that data is going to be collected by software programs that are used by your employer, by the government, to develop what? Oh, there it is. A personal ESG score. So I will leave it, let me see if I can get, how do you calculate a personal ESG score? This is where I will end. Through the smart city infrastructure, it will be measuring and managing your energy choices, transportation habits, environmental impact and subject jobs, carbon footprint, and what you're invested in. So if you look at a city plan, a smart city plan, it's going to have all of these areas listed as sections of the plan. Those sections or those sectors of your civic life will be infused with the digital technologies that are going to collect the data that goes into what your social credit score. So I have confidence that the good people of Oklahoma are not going to take this, but we will have to educate ourselves about what some of these terms mean. We will have to use our persuasive powers at the state level to fight and get our states under the people's control, and then use the states to promote the Constitution. So I have Karen Harden from Tulsa has some sign-up sheets. She'll be in the back. If you want some more information about this, I would be happy to take your email, and let's fight for Oklahoma. Thank you guys so much.
You're welcome.
Oh, I'm going to take questions?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It should be on.
Okay, we understand if you have to slip out, but we're going to take about 5 minutes for some questions. And I really love Julianne because she has a PhD. She is quiet. She is smart. I already see 4 hands up to ask questions. Bob, we might take a microphone out. We're going to take 2 or 3 questions. But the thing I love most about Julianne, the World Economic Forum banned her from commenting. So you know she is pretty smart. First question, Suzanne.
If you would, can you hear this mic okay?
Yes.
If you have a question, if you would come up front and develop a line. And
These are both for the video, so I think that's why I have to
I see
stand.
a gentleman in the back, if you would come up front and we'll have the microphone.
Thank you for that awesome presentation. It's just so creepy.
It is.
So I know our legislators are here, and I hopefully they are paying a lot of attention and going to ban all this nonsense and invasion of privacy. My question is just the other day I was looking at we're filing our taxes. I received from New York Life that we have investments in for retirement. Quite a bit of money, and in that 22-page document, there was a small print item in there that stated that up to 6% may be used for ESG, as they determine by our proxy, because they have our money, to invest in those funds. So I quickly called our financial advisor. We're no longer with New York Life.
Yeah.
My question is how do we stop this? I mean, this is like going back into education, and I know I'm on the State Board of Education, but how do we stop this?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is so big that it's going to take a lot of scrappy solutions. It's going to take a lot of time, and it's going to take just a lot of moxie that people have forgotten that they have. It is driven by the largest bankers and investing houses in the world. So we are in a David and Goliath position, but everyone who did something great in Scripture was very humble. So I have hope because of that we've been brought to this situation precisely so that we can fight it with God's help. But we're going to have to be a little bit patient, and I think focus on state action. Okay, the world really is looking at the United States of America because our Constitution is a huge obstacle to the global project. What they really want to do is get rid of all nation states and move to e-governance, e-citizenship, where you can just pick and choose your country, and they can pick and choose you based on your social credit score. So this is why I think what we have to do is really throw our weight as a people who believes in government by consent of the governed. We have to take back our politicians, hold them very accountable, and really start a mass people's movement that is focused on uniting the states as states. Most of our cities are too captured for us to really fight it at the state or at the city level, and they also don't have the legislative power to go against the large banking houses. So I think the states have plenty of power, but what we're going to have to do as a people is really support our legislators and be very loud so that they have a mandate for action that even the institutional bankers cannot refuse. So optics matter a lot. If this is about social credit scoring, that's about reputation capital. They have to preserve optics. So we as Oklahomans, regular people, have to be so loud that there is no way that our representatives at the state level could possibly refuse to listen to us.
Very good.
And then as a state, and I have people, I can't even take all of the phone calls because I got my kids at home, and it's nuts. But I get so many calls from people from every state, Tennessee, Kansas, Utah, Colorado, all of these people, they say, hey, we're trying to do the same thing as Oklahoma. So if we could just make some state-centered action effective here, then we will get our fellow Americans to join in, and then we can clean out Washington and the criminals that are in our system. And pray to God that He saves us from
Very good.
I think.
Okay, we're going to just do these 3 questions and we'll be through with that, so don't come on up. And by the way, the personal ESG that Julianne is talking about, it's already implemented in China. The ultimate end is this: if your score is not high enough, what they do is they take money from you in digital banking, or they don't give you credit. They make you broke because you're not conforming to the social structure. And I'm telling you, we've got to fight it. Kenny.
Okay, your sustainable word is central management and rationing of all resources. Rationing implies control. Control means that, say I'm a business owner, where in this line do they confiscate my capital? Where in the process do they confiscate my resources and start managing them more sustainably?
Yeah, they're going to do it through licenses. So one thing to look out for is a policy called land value capture. So the question was, how do we, how are resources going to be rationed so that businesses can't access them? How is this actually going to work? It will work through city regulations that impose taxes on the use of certain things. There is rezoning going on, and then there is this program, like I said, land value capture, where we see to me it looks like a giant Ponzi scheme where you have county commissioners and boards of assessors that are looking at the potential economic use of an area, and they're saying this is what it could produce, and given the needs of the community for economic development or conservation of natural resources, we have the power to appropriate that property to us by assessing a greater tax value on it. So it will be sort of incremental, sneaky, but the way that they're doing it with land value is the same way that they would do it for any other resource. They're all going to be tied to the commons, and
At what point does my private capital become public capital?
When it goes digital.
When it goes digital. Yeah, so, I think that the central banking digital currency is going to probably roll out in the next year or two. And your bank is maybe there's going to be some crisis. There's always a crisis, and then there's a reaction and a solution. But if we get the narrative changed in our favor, and you have lots of people fighting it and saying, in Oklahoma, we're going to protect the use of cash, then we can start to push back.
Good. Question.
Hi, Juliet.
Sorry, hello, Jillian. I want to get on your expertise about universities. I know we've talked a lot about both Tulsa and OU and that history. That'd be a whole separate show. But more recently, there was just a manufactured crisis in OU. And as you know, I live right down the street from OU. My wife's associated there. You've never seen a response. This was a 9/11-like response of just unbelievable. I mean, I went up and watched it with my own eyes, and it was on the media. They were losing their mind. It was a full-blown panic. You know, and of course that were active shooter. I mean, Ron, right? You know, everybody's taking shelter. Well, it turns out there is no shooter. There was no danger. It was some party poppers. I went and photographed the confetti. The problem is immediately we see a story in the OU Daily that came out today that 4 of the most leftist legislators are now calling for more legislation to give more power to the president of OU for safety. And your favorite buzzwords apply in the story about, well, if we don't start doing more for social justice, this is going to happen. And I already told my wife, I said, this, whatever it is, they're going to treat this as if it did happen.
Yes.
No, there was no gunman. There was a peaceful deal, but we're going to treat it like it was. So do you see, and how universities are operating in conjunction with media and however, that this is a future model to look for? Creating a crisis and then immediately having a solution to implement many of these programs.
Good.
Yes, absolutely. So universities are so important because just like Americans love their technology and we sort of believe in progress, we also believe in universities. I mean, that's been sort of waning, but still most people have the sense that there are good traditions that have been cultivated there, and that education in itself is a good thing. The universities are, and I can tell you the Oklahoma State Regents for Higher Education are totally 100% backing the impact economy and the 4IR. You look at their newsletter, their buzzwords are all over it. This is all measured and managed AR, augmented reality, and VR stuff that they're pursuing. So you have to get into the universities because Americans generally still like them, and they are cultural engines, and also they have big bucks of endowments and the possibility for technology transfer. So yes, we're going to see, I think, more and more of these shenanigans, and if we remember, this really is about blurring the lines between what's real and what's not, both on the technological level with virtual reality and then real reality, but also on the level of narrative. So we have to keep our media personalities honest. Really, we need to kick them all out, I think, because they are, even if they're going to print something that's going to create a shock, and then that will, it doesn't matter if it's true or not, it will give rise to the conditions of more safety, security, social engineering, and preventing future outcomes. So know to target your universities and say, we're not going to take this.
Last question.
One of the points was that information is the new oil, and how do we cut off the information as a society and also personally?
Yes, we have to go analog. Like, there is no safe technology. We have to go back to paper. We have to visit each other, and it's going to be hard. And I think maybe there's a weaning process that goes on. I still use a credit card for most things, even though I know all this stuff. So, but we have to find ways to use cash. You know, you see someone using cash, maybe give them a pat on the back. Don't say, oh, she's breaking out her coins. We have to get back to using just tried and true methods of relating to each other as human beings. And then number one, get the kids off the technology, because they want the human capital data on young children.
Yeah, good. Give Julianne a round of applause. Good job.
Thank you so much.